Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Tatiana Show. This is the last show of 2015, and this is our first year. So, really happy that everybody's been able to tune in all along, and hopefully, we made some new friends along the way. We have Joshua Scigala from Valtoro joining us as usual. Hi, Josh, how's it going?
Oh, the mute button was on. Yeah, I'm going well. I'm doing very well. 2015's wrapping up with all its glory, and yeah, it's there's so much going on, and everyone's on holiday, so it's really a little bit aggravating. But I'm feeling very happy for them that they're on holiday.
Do
And
you think it was a year of glory in Bitcoin? I think we made it through another year, right?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff being fleshed out with the whole block size debate and stuff, which is getting a little bit laborious.
Mhm.
But I think, it's part of the process. It's part of the process of being decentralized, and it just takes longer than a centralized decision-making mechanism. But I think it also gets fleshed out a lot better because every argument's really mulled over. And I think there's definitely divisive sides to it, but it'll get sorted out soon enough. But generally, yeah, I mean, we're seeing a consolidation in price, moving sideways. We're seeing, I think we've reached the bottom. We've found sort of a natural price point here around this 400 mark.
You think so? I think some people are telling me, I'm always wondering, right? Because I've got Bitcoin. So I want to know if the price is going to go up. But I don't have a lot. So if hackers are like, ooh, goody, goody, you're not going to be that excited once you get there. But but still, I mean, I care about the price. And then some people think it's going to tank, and then some people think it's going to go to the moon. So I don't know. I'm just going to try holding on as long as I can.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's it. What we know is it's definitely going to go up. It's definitely going to go down. It's definitely going to go sideways. So that's all we know.
Well, I don't know. I guess everybody has a different opinion. Some people just want to collect it and accumulate it, and then I don't know. Some people
I
are
mean,
living
it's
off
like
of it.
money, right? Some people are really good at saving. Some people are really crap at it. Uh, and I think with this whole people that are living in the West or are richer, they can just afford to hold, but some people need to spend as they get it in, and they need to move it forward, and they need to use it like currency. So horses for courses, as they say.
I've never heard of that
Have you
expression
not?
before. Now, what does it
Yeah,
mean?
maybe it's an Australia. It means like different people use things in different ways.
Different strokes for different folks is the
Yeah,
American version of
that's
that.
the American version. Exactly, exactly.
So I'm really excited for our show today because we're bringing on a friend of mine, Kingsley Edwards. Hi, Kingsley. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
So Kingsley works with Leetcoin, and that's some sort of a gaming Bitcoin thing, which he'll tell us about later. But what I find a little bit something that really like kind of spoke to me was the story of Kingsley's dad. And Kingsley's dad has been in jail since 1993, and he had less than a tablespoonful of cocaine on him. And then he was sentenced to 60 years in jail, which,
Seems reasonable, right?
completely reasonable. Yeah, it seems appropriate. So, we always hear about Ross's case, and that's a really big one in the community. But what I've learned by getting to know one inmate, there are many more where that one came from, and it really affects their families and everybody's story. While it may not get that same media attention, is just as heartbreaking, or in general, it just seems really like something I really want to pay a lot of attention to, and bring a lot of attention to, because it's mind-boggling to me that this goes on. So, Kingsley, perhaps you can give us a little rundown of the story of what happened with your dad.
Yeah, so basically, how long has it been? Over 20 years ago, my dad, he was involved with drugs. He had a problem. He had, gotten busted for some, nonviolent stuff before. So this was the third offense. And so that's kind of the big problem with it, is that it was the third time. And that was the whole like three strikes you're out type of ordeal. So the last one where he got busted, basically his girlfriend at the time she was working with the cops, and they basically, the story is that basically he was trying to get out of that world, and he didn't get in trouble just for himself, but she was working with the cops because I think she got busted, and they did like kind of a sting operation. Um, I guess to me it seems like it would be considered entrapment, but I feel like cops' definition of entrapment is completely else's take on it. So I mean, yeah. So basically, she got him to get her a small amount of cocaine, and then she was at his house and went into the bathroom and called the cops, and then they charged in and got this serious drug, whatever, not a kingpin, not anything
It
big
was a big
whatsoever,
bust.
but that was a win for them for the day. They can go home proud to their families because they got a a criminal off the streets.
My God.
So yeah, that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
So it was like a small baggie of cocaine, and here we have a person who's obviously needs psychological help, or he's got a drug problem. It's a medical condition actually, and instead of helping this person, they just throw him in prison. I mean, who was the judge behind such a ridiculous sentence? I mean, that's just obscene. 25 years?
Oh, it's longer than that. 60 years, right?
Yeah, he's already been in for I think it's 23 years this year. Yeah, so
God.
yeah, it was 60 years. I think with like good behavior, it drops down to maybe 45 or so. But the fact is that he can potentially still spend over 20 more years in prison. So I just turned 30 a couple months ago. I'm going to be 50 when my father's getting out of prison. He would be 70 something,
Oh
which
man, I'm
just
so,
seems
so sorry.
ridiculous.
Oh,
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of grew up, with this, obviously, because it happened a long time ago.
How old were you when this happened?
Think I was 8, around 8, yeah, 7 or 8, something like that.
So your parents
So,
weren't together and he was just kind of wilding out somewhere. And, I mean, that happens, right?
yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, he was involved with, obviously the kind of the wrong group of people, or not. I mean, like I said, he's never got in trouble for anything violent. So I guess it's your take on the whole drug war as a whole. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's really a waste of money for taxpayers as well because he's instead of just getting him help when he needs it, which is something that some other countries only far and few between, like let's just say Portugal, they'll send you to rehab for what's the cost of that, like 10 to 20,000 at tops. They're spending 10 or 20 to 30,000 a year on my father just rotting away for no good reason.
well, not only that, I mean,
So it's
literally, what this judge has done is basically murder someone. I mean, he's basically taken someone's life away from them, taken someone's life by putting someone in prison for 60 years. I mean, and even if he gets out for, let's say, after 30, you've got record. You don't know how to deal with society anymore. You've basically ruined someone's life, and for what? For some ridiculous little thing. It just is so infuriating and so despicable and so disgusting that people, judges, are even be allowed to be called honourable after giving sentences like that. It's just despicable, and I can't believe this day and age, after all the research that's been done with countries like Portugal, after all the when you see other countries taking other options, like actually treating it as a mental health issue instead of a criminal issue, that actually things get better. That after all this research and all this evidence, we still have cases like your father, which is absolutely, it floors me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously it's ridiculous, and the thing about it that's that's well, I guess it's not funny, but a couple years ago, or I guess it's been about 5 to 10 years now. Um, they basically they had like kind of this hearing where friends and family and acquaintances of my father came to the courtroom and basically testified on his behalf that he's a changed man. He did kick his habit in prison, even though drugs are as much, if not more, available there than anywhere. So that is one positive out of this. But yeah, so they friends and family were testifying on his behalf that he's got a job when he comes out. He's got support. And even the attorney that prosecuted him is actually understands now. He's like, this was out of control. So he's even speaking out on behalf of my father.
Oh, really?
In a Yeah. So and then the judge, Judge Rossman, kind of you can go to Michael Edwards freedomfund.com, and we have stories, the story there, and kind of some local news press that have taken up the story as well. You can check that out. He basically, he said, okay, well, I understand it's a terrible sentence, da da da, but after reviewing the law, it's still legal. What happened? It was still fell underneath the law. So essentially, it's like I feel like it's almost like saying, okay, we burned this witch 20 years ago, and but that's okay because at the time that was legal or whatever. And it just seems out of control. Like we can't bring some common sense to this problem.
How
Yeah.
would you say, when I went to the prison in New York, right? What I noticed was there were a lot of different families there, and it made me think about how when these laws are being enforced, of course, very selectively, but when they're being enforced, it really has a huge effect on the family. How would you say that this has impacted your life and who you've become today as an adult?
It's interesting because I try to think like that. Like, really, it's the only thing I know, right? So it's hard for me to compare. I feel like I'm somewhat normal, so that's good. Even compared to my friends who have more, mother and father type of, growing up situation, a more normal American family. Um, so yeah, in a way, it obviously has affected me emotionally. I'll probably need some psychological help eventually. But it's obviously it's very hard on myself. I mean, almost every couple of days, the only contact I have with my father is through a phone call, or I have to go to Florida to visit him, and I usually do at least once or twice a year. I'll be seeing him again in April, which is gonna be good.
How long do you see him
But it
for
really
when you go to prison? How long of an amount of time do you get?
you get a nice. He's actually at a private prison, which is interesting. We can go talk like a little bit later about like private versus public prisons if you want. But it's really affected obviously his mother, my grandmother. Right now she's struggling. She tries to. She's a whole other story of how kind of the government screwed her over. The IRS ended up giving her. She's like 80 years old, and the IRS ended up sending her like a or just something ridiculous. Um, but yeah, it's affected. Obviously his family, grandma, and his sister too. My aunt. So it's yeah, it's very very hard on them obviously too because they are in Florida. But luckily they do get to see him more often than myself. Uh, but yeah, it's a struggle, I guess. But it's just kind of something that I grew up with, really. So I don't have anything else to compare it to.
I mean, I know your mother, so I know that she's really supportive and she did a really, really good job with you. So you're really lucky that you have that support, I think. I don't think that a lot of people do. And I think that the drug war ends up decimating entire neighborhoods because there's no man around to, do the man stuff, and to serve as a role model, to help bring in income, and to provide some balance and some support to the women. Your mom is a really tough cookie, though, so, props to
Yeah,
her.
yeah, she's I guess everyone could say this, but she's the best mom in the world. Um, but yeah, no, definitely. I mean, her and my grandma, super strong women, being able to deal with this.
So, what are some of the other limitations, just in terms of communicating with your dad? You said that you're not able to email with him. What ways can you guys talk so he can call you? You obviously can't call him.
You correct, yeah. So I can't call him. He can call. The only thing is, it's hard to schedule around that stuff. So, he a lot of times he'll call when I just can't answer, which is unfortunate, and I feel bad about that. Um, but yeah, it's just only outbound calls for him. So that's and then we get visitation. Like if I lived in Florida, I'd be able to see him. I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's once or twice a week if I could. But it's a huge it's an all day event, um, and it takes a lot. Actually, it takes a lot of energy and time to and like just emotionally even to like go through the prisons and get checked in and all this kind of stuff and wait in line just to see your father. Luckily, it is like not behind bars or some sort of glass, which is nice. So you're actually able to like hug and kind of see each other face to face. But yeah, I mean it's a tough pill to swallow. The only thing that we're focused on right now is getting the governor's attention, and kind of the last hope is where the governor has to review his case through the clemency board and basically grant him clemency, which is essentially like a pardon.
What do you think about the guards there when you go? Are they nice to you? And how is he treated in there? Does he feel like there's a threat of violence, or what's the vibe around the inmates? Did you ever ask him that kind of thing?
I mean, it's a scary situation. The guards. I think a lot of the guards understand that he's kind of got a raw deal. So so in a way that's kind of good. But yeah, I mean, you're dealing with he's not in just like a place where it's like nonviolent criminals. It's kind of a mixed breed. So it's scary, even just thinking about every day him living in that situation.
Wow. Um, so what are some of the things that you've learned about the prison system in America? Because I've been learning some things. For example, how they use plea deals to bully people around a little bit. Well, a lot actually, and that most trials people don't even have it's like a minuscule chance of winning. And that most things don't even go to trial because they bully them into plea deals. So there's a lot of different information out there. I posted up some links before, and I generally on my Twitter and stuff, people can see stuff like that. But what have you learned personally? What would you say is the difference between the jails and anything else that you've learned?
So he was offered opportunity. I'm trying to remember exactly what the deal was, but basically he chose to fight it. Now there's some question if that's like even considered constitutional or not, because basically they said we'll just go if you plead guilty. I forget. I think it was maybe 10 to 20 years they would give him. But if he pleaded innocent or went to trial, then they were going to go for the full extent, which was 60 plus years. Um, so he did, yeah, he did try to fight it, and obviously lost. So the difference between the prisons is actually kind of interesting because you hear a lot of, especially in the like libertarian circles, kind of the people are against private prisons usually, because the idea of private prisons, obviously, profiting off of people in prison. So, but it is interesting, like throughout. I mean, he's jumped from prison to prison quite a bit. He's been in one private prison now for a couple of years, which has been nice. But they're actually, in my opinion, and then through my dad's experience, they seem better than the public ones. So, just as far as just I guess the living standards. So it's kind of interesting getting that perspective and that insight for public versus private prisons.
I think the thing is that public prisons versus private prisons, the notion that it's a private prison is really false because there's one client. And in the free market, you don't have one client. And the one client is the government. They're the payer. They pay this one company. So whereas a private enterprise really has multiple clients, and you try to entice them to come to you. If you have this just one payer, then it's really not private. That's the same with private armies and all sorts of stuff. It's this sort of kind of a fascistic almost way of looking at privatization. It's more just this monopoly on a one payer system. But yeah, I can imagine even that might be better than some of the public systems who don't even have any feedback whatsoever.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is that at the very least you have some sort of competition from other private prisons that potentially could come in and manage the facility. So yeah, I feel like at least just in the place where he's in now, there are educational programs that he's able to attend and things like that, and the environment seems to be a lot better. I know I visited him in public prisons before, and it was I had the only way I could even see him was through through the glass, which was terrible. So yeah, it is interesting getting that perspective.
Oh, because he's obviously so
It's so
dangerous that you
barbaric.
need
I
glass.
mean, this is all
It's
they've ever come up with in the history of dealing with problems in the world is just putting somebody in a cage. It's ridiculous.
no. We hear about these stories where in Thailand and stuff, where if someone's slightly got a mental disorder or something like that, they'll just chain them up on the hut and let them there by the stairs and then feed them like a dog. And we think, oh, that's so barbaric, which it is, obviously. But really, when you think of someone that's busted for a couple of grams of cocaine and then thrown in prison for so long in multiple facilities, it sounds like, and then even having the prosecutor saying, "Oh, this is all a little bit wrong after 20 years." We obviously need to reevaluate as a society of what's important, not only of where our money goes as taxpayers, but also for the psychology of these poor people that are being thrown in prison for really non-violent crimes, for something that they really are only causing damage to themselves. And really, if that damage is extending to the family, then we, instead of throwing them in prison where they generally just learn how to be more criminal because you're surrounded by criminals, instead of going to criminal school in a prison, you should be, like I said before, dealt with in a mental health issue. Have you noticed, is there much sort of mental health? You said your father had managed to kick the habit. Was he helped in these barbaric institutions to do this, or was this off his own back?
23 years in prison, and he's never had one rehab, anything. Class, never talked to a counselor about drug problems, not one.
Far out. And we look at ourselves in the West and say, look how civilized we are, look how great we are, and when we hear stories like that, really it's shameful. It's absolutely shameful and disgusting.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
Well, there's also, the slavery aspect of it because, um, you know, people in prison are bullied into working. They say that work is optional, but I asked Ross, and he said, "Well, if you don't want to get thrown in solitary, you're gonna do the work. So how optional is that?" And then if you think about it, the drug war is really, I mean, most of the people in prison are black or Hispanic from different races, and they're just being forced to work for really cheap. So doesn't that strike anybody as a little bit odd? I mean, these people are working for 10 cents on the dollar, and then the prison companies are going off and selling the labor, and everybody's making money off of them. And it's like, what's going on there? And the restitution isn't even going, they're not even contributing back. Bob Murphy has a video that where he talks about, what would a prison look like in a free society? And one of the ways to punish the prisoner and to kind of make the situation better is to allow them to work and to give the money to the family that they, hurt in whatever way or whatever. I guess that's better than what's happening now because as far as I can tell, there's just companies that are making money off of prison labor, and the people who were hurt by the actual criminals aren't even making money off of it. Not to mention that it's having basically backdoor slavery going on.
yeah, absolutely. There's no justice in that. There's no justice at all.
Yeah, it's like institutionalized slavery, pretty much. Yeah, I'd like to actually, I'd like to look into what Bob Murphy put in regards to private prisons, because it is a very interesting topic, especially when you start diving into like anarcho-cap world. Um, but yeah,
Just
as
from
far
a
as my
regular
thought,
perspective, like for
yeah.
regular people never even think of, okay, well, maybe we should not put people in cages. It doesn't even occur to us to think that. If I bring up a prison thing on my page, I'll have people that I think are sensitive, kind, normal people, intelligent people, and they can't even conceptualize having compassion for people behind bars. They don't even think that, oh, maybe they don't belong there. They're like living in a fantasy world. And until you really get to know a case and you can identify with a person, there's no real reason to venture into that. It's not a fun thing to think about. It's not pleasant. We all want to think about things that keep us happy, but this is absolutely a roiling underbelly of filth that's eating up a large portion of our population. I mean, we have the largest prison population in the world. This is the freest country. We're so free. I mean, we have the most people in jail. That's by definition, we're the least free.
Yeah, I've heard of stories where people are really get set on a downward spiral. They they get a traffic offense, a minor traffic offense. They can't afford to pay it, so it skyrockets. Then of course they can't afford to pay it. They then get sent to prison for not paying it, and then they have this downward spiral where they can't get a job because their record now has a prison sentence, and it just goes down and down, and they end up on the streets. Uh, uh, and this happens not. It's not like some rare occasion that this happens. This happens all the time, where people just have an unlucky streak where they can't afford to pay a silly thing. But people don't realize how much prison actually affects the whole life of someone. And I mean, your father is an absolutely extreme case of this. But, I think there are so many cases where people go to prison for ridiculous things. The notion that the thing I think where people find private prisons offensive is that the game theory of getting people into prison changes because there's a profit motive for the operators. But at the same time, when you have it's not truly private. Like I said before, you have this one payer, this no bid contracts sort of system. But yeah, it's I think people don't really realize how prison time affects someone's life, even if it's for a day, because of the record. And so, and I think that's something the American people, I'm not American, but I think, it's well renowned globally that the American prison system is out of control.
When I was on a train in Chicago, this was after I had visited Ross, right? So that was this really, I mean, it was one of the most dramatic experiences of my life. Traumatic, really, because it was so striking and it really, I don't know, I'm very grateful for the chance, but I also feel like it was super depressing. And anyway, I was on the train in Chicago and there was some dude and seemed totally normal, really nice, and he basically was saying to everybody on the train, "Look, I just got out of prison. I went in there when I was 17. I'm now 34. I can't find a job. I'll do anything. I'll sweep floors. I'll do whatever." And he was so earnest in his desire to try and do something, but at the same time, it was so pathetic, like not in a mean way, but it was so pathetic that he had to beg and he had nothing. And then luckily, like some guy like helped him and he said, "Okay, maybe you can go and try this one place to work." And maybe this guy is really lazy. Maybe he just had a good game going, but I can't believe that every single person that gets out of jail is just a dirty animal that you need to treat them like shit and just throw them in the corner of society and sweep them in one corner and sweep them in another just so everybody else can have a good time. I mean, it's just I couldn't walk
Well,
away from the
yeah,
humanity, you
I,
know?
I agree. And I mean, I think if we as a society think that prison is some sort of rehabilitation center or system where someone comes out better than they were before, or is prison some place where we just stick people to hide them away because they're dangerous people that we don't want in society? And generally, I think the whole mashing up is what's really wrong, because what we're doing is using prisons as both one to have this pretense of a rehabilitation which isn't there, and one to say, oh, this person's dangerous, stick him in the same thing. So again, it comes back to uh, having the funding for things like this war on drugs coming, distorting people's lives, and instead of treating them as a true rehabilitation, instead of giving people the ability to rehabilitate, they throw them into these centers and really destroy whole lives, pretty much murder lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since obviously having a felony on your record is can make it very difficult to get a job. Um, I see. There are some. I guess it looks like there is potentially a light, a distant light at the end of the tunnel, with kind of the now the places like Colorado and Washington starting to at least view marijuana in a different light, which is I feel going towards at least on the right path. But still, yeah, there's still so many people locked up. I mean, there needs to be some sort of mass effort to get all these basically. I mean, they're innocent people in my opinion if they haven't gotten into anything violent. Um, and then you're right, like just it is really just like learning how to become a criminal in prison. Like it's crazy all the stories you hear. Uh, and what is it? I think it's like up to 85% of all people that are in prison will be back again. So and there's no thought process of, "Oh, how do we change that?" Now that we have the largest prison population in the world, I think it's 25% of the prisoners of the world. Um,
Wow.
so there needs to be mass reform, obviously.
Well, what I find so disingenuous is the whole PR campaign that Obama went on talking about, "Oh, we got to help the prisoners, we got to help the prisoners," as if he has no impact on the laws that put these people in jail in the first place. And everybody's talking about how nice he is, and he did his little PR stunt where he went to the jail and he shook the hands and kissed the babies. And in the meantime, he only pardoned, what, 46 people? That's not even more, like, that wasn't even a larger amount than previous presidents. And at the end of the day, even if he pardoned 200 people, We have how many people in jail? What is it, 3 million or something insane like
Yeah,
that?
I think it's like 2 million or three, something like
How is that even possible? I mean, well, I know how it's possible because they make money off of it and they keep people kind of controlled. Do you think, because me and Kingsley, we met through Liberty stuff. Kingsley, do you think that what happened with your dad influenced you politically and kind of pushed you down the path into Bitcoin too?
I wonder about that stuff because I was in I joined the Navy after high school and ended up learning about Ron Paul in 2007 after the debate with Giuliani. Um, and that kind of triggered it. So I don't know, like the actual thought process, it that came after. Trying to like connecting the dots as far as like, oh wait, my dad's in this situation because of our, basically we're not following the Constitution, all that kind of stuff. So, so I think maybe in kind of a sleight of hand type of way, it did maybe affect it had to have affected my thought process somewhat. But really, I started identifying or connecting the dots after I started, getting into Ron Paul and researching, Mises and all the greats. Um, but yeah, so now I guess I'm more focused on, how do we fix this as a nation as a whole, and like I mentioned, I think there has to be some sort of mass reform. Um, there's no way that we can just keep allowing this to happen. I mean, year after year, this is, it's only getting worse. It's not like it's lessening. If anything, it's accelerating at the speed. So yeah, we'll see kind of how, like I'm interested to see how states' rights are going to have effect with this whole recreational marijuana scene, and hopefully that will affect us across the board and in other aspects as well.
Well, one of the things I believe that this administration was known for was kind of ramping up the raids on different places. And earlier this morning, I was watching Ben Swan report about do police departments need grenades? And he goes on to not only talk about the grenades, because I guess that baby that had the grenade thrown into its crib, the guy just, they got away with it. They weren't charged. And so these people's child now is deformed because of some crazy raid. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, people want to give these officers who can't even handle a gun. You have the little boy with the BB gun, Tamir Rice, I believe is his name, and they didn't even charge that guy. And you want to give the same guy who has to shoot a little 12-year-old boy who has a BB gun within 2 seconds of seeing him a tank? That doesn't seem like a very good idea. Like, how is this even something to potentially suggest? And I think a lot of this is a lot of people's focus and ability to see this situation clearly is muddied in the way that these stories are told to the media. They make these racial issues, which there are a lot of racial components, but at the end of the day, this is really giving the state the power to shoot anybody and to now tank them or grenade them or whatever other lovely weapons that they come up with. So, I mean, that violence is, it's just, I don't know, it's just unnecessary, and it's shocking to me that it continues to go on. And I believe that people will eventually stop tolerating it, but I don't know if they're going to direct their anger in the correct way, if they're really going to understand what it is that's causing the problem.
Sorry,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the problems with just humans in general is that, in the state definitely, I think knows this and plays off this, is that humans, most of us, not, except for myself, but they think with their emotions, and they act with their emotions, and they don't think things through with logic. So yeah, and obviously like the militarization of the police force is just a terrible thing, I'm a big fan of reading history and learning about especially the Revolutionary War, and it just, you see all these things mirrored from hundreds of years ago, and now it's happening again, and it's very interesting, this story that's taking place. And then you add Bitcoin on top of it, a potential game changer worldwide. Um, and it's definitely going to be interesting times in the next 5 to 20 years. So it's scary in a lot of ways, but also it's also exciting too, because we could I believe that as a nation or people even across the world, that we can really I have faith in, I guess, humanity. So I believe that we're going to end up on the right side of things.
Um, how is it looking in terms of helping your father, in terms of getting, is there a movement? Is there something people can do to help his cause? I see that on your strap here, if anyone's watching the video stream, you've got Michael Edwards freedomfund.com. What's happening there, and how does that affect his case?
So right now we're focused on getting people to, you can download the PDF on the site. We're redoing the site right now, but it's up there. So you can download the PDF, fill it out, and mail it to the governor. And so the biggest thing is, the governor is really our only hope, is to get his attention, and to have my father's case brought to him, and then him grant my father clemency. So we're just trying to get creative in any way that we can do that. So having people fill out this form, send it in. That's one way. We have had contacts with the press in the area. So that's kind of another way. They've actually have interviewed the governor there, and have asked them point blank, and he just says that that the Clemency Review Board will get to it eventually. Well, the Clemency Review Board, they're still working on like 2010 cases right now, or something like that. Yeah. So that's kind of something that we touched on before. Is this group of people that has like a budget to do a job. It doesn't seem like they're doing anything. They're just kind of twiddling their thumbs. So yeah, that's kind of the effort is to print out these forms, send it to Rick Scott, and then also any donations is always welcome to help with attorney fees.
Yeah, I think that's always a positive thing, even if you don't like political change. I think these people are pulling strings, and it's important to something like this would help to show that there's numbers of people. There's eyeballs looking at what generally happens. I know that coming from Australia, when news media start doing pieces, then politicians start looking a little bit more nervously. What's happened in the past with that? I noticed on the site there are some news reports. Does that put any pressure?
Yeah, it does. It helps. It definitely helps. So it's just a matter of gaining momentum off of that. Obviously, all the energy and effort that we put forth so far, it has gotten us to a point, but he's still in prison. So, we haven't found the best way to go about it yet. But any publicity helps, about his situation, and bringing that to the governor.
So, for the folks at home, that's Michael Edwards, freedomfund, all one word, .com.
And also, I think, to reiterate, there is a way that you can, I thought that this was good that you guys had that downloadable letter, so people can just pop that in the mail. I know that money is tough right now for a lot of people, and sharing it on social media is fine and encouraged, but I think that hit print, I mean, if you're at work, hit print, sign it with like 3 different people's names, just send it off and make it happen, because I think unless people put pressure on, Governor Rick Scott, when's he up for re-election? What's his story?
I think it's coming up.
Well,
I
maybe
don't.
he should show some compassion in order to get your vote. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters if. I'm not sure. I don't think he's seeking re-election, but whether he gets in or someone else gets in, it's still a long shot, unfortunately, until we have whoever the governor is, their eyes on his case. So his case is unique. There are a few in the country that are similar to it, but he is, yeah, one of very few. So it's a sad state of affairs.
So the other way people can help, I guess, is knowing about your project, Leetcoin, and generally just being helping you to survive and helping you to then gain a bit more cash and help in that way, in a roundabout way, be successful. Tell us about your the Leetcoin project. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Leetcoin is so now it's Leet, but
Okay.
so Leet.gg. So Leet is just a platform where gamers can play their favorite video games against each other for money. So it's like a skill-based site, kind of similar. You can consider it kind of similar to like a poker type of platform, but you're playing video games against other people. So we're focused on PC games and right now we're actually we just struck a deal. This isn't I can't go into too much detail because it's not public yet, but we actually struck a deal with a casino in downtown Las Vegas. So we're going to be doing some really exciting things in 2016. So yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Great. How does that affect with licensing and stuff? Would that be pronounced as gambling? I mean, if I put a wager down with my friend that I'm going to win against him, how does that work in the States?
So yeah, so it's considered skill-based gaming. It's legal in 45 of the 50 states.
Okay.
I used to say that it falls under the same lines as daily fantasy sports, but now daily fantasy sports is taking a hit. But daily fantasy sports, in my opinion, is really gambling. It's just like a sports book type of thing.
Mm.
So we are different in that aspect, that you're putting money on yourself against another player that's putting money against themselves. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Skill tester.
What made you get into that? I mean, there's always there's so many different projects in Bitcoin, and crypto allows you to be so creative and just get involved in a lot of ways. Like, what made you do that? Were you a gamer before? Were you a gambler?
Yeah, so I used to be a gamer growing up, and then I stopped after high
Went
school for
outside.
yeah. Yeah, so then I went outside and I was like, oh, okay, there's trees. This is nice. But then 10 years, a couple years ago actually, so I guess fast forward like 10 years, and one of my favorite games growing up had a new release, and so I was like, oh, you know what? I'll start playing this again, whatever. And and so I started playing it, and then I was like, I was starting to get kind of good, and I was like, I wonder if there's a site where I can actually kind of play against other people for money. And at the time, there was no such thing. So and at that same time, I was getting into Bitcoin. The way I got into Bitcoin is being involved with the Liberty movement, and then also my background is actually in finance and economics. I was like a portfolio analyst for some wealth management firms. So Bitcoin was when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, what's this? I much preferred gold and silver, but then I kind of took another look at it in 2013, early 2013, and I was then kind of the light bulb went off, and this is genius. So that coupled with me getting involved with Bitcoin at the same time, and I thought, well, this is really interesting. Maybe Bitcoin could be the gaming currency. So we started experimenting with that. And so far, it's been like on our B2C site, Leet.gg. It's been okay. We haven't put much into marketing yet, but we've had a pretty decent ride. We were actually in the Bitcoin Accelerator Boost VC in San Mateo earlier this year, so that was a really good experience. But now, yeah, we're starting to kind of not ignore Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is still kind of taboo. So even though gaming is starting to actually incorporate Bitcoin a lot more, but we're going to be accepting PayPal, credit cards, and Bitcoin still going forward. But we're still Bitcoin believers, and we're still interested in like exploring alternative ways to use Bitcoin in gaming.
Do you know about Spells of Genesis? I thought that was really cool, and I hate games, like video games anyway.
Yeah, I've known about them. I didn't watch your video though. I need to watch that video.
You should check
I've
it
been
out.
meaning.
It's really
Yeah, I want to.
wild.
Yeah,
Yours seems a lot easier to understand. Um, yeah, they're different, but I think you'd still like it.
yeah, for sure.
Have you thought at all about how crypto could help in the prison system? I mean, would there be a place for it, do you think?
I mean, I think there's a place for cryptocurrencies everywhere in the world. So yeah, I haven't thought of like really specific use cases. I mean, I can think of one. I mean, if there was some way where maybe like if a prisoner had even like a some sort of debit card or something like that, then you can just load it onto that. But unfortunately, it's everything's so closed, everything's so archaic. All the technology that the prison system utilizes, you know, it's really bad. You know, you're riddled with fees, just nonstop. You know, if I wanted to, I am able to send, like, say, $25 to my father to put in his fund so he can go to the canteen and purchase, you know, a can of tuna or whatever. Um, but you know, that $25 has a $5 fee attached to it for me. So it's yeah,
Is that run by
it's
a Western Union by any chance?
yeah, probably on the back end. Who knows? But yeah, it's really bad. All their technology. It's all meant to make it really hard for you to communicate with your family member or loved one, and it's meant to be really expensive. So it screw you over both ways.
Oh, it's just yeah, it's designed to rape you financially. You know, it really
Hmm.
is. It's
Yeah.
Can people just donate directly into the canteens, do you think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is possible. Um, yeah, it is possible. That takes another kind of step though. So it is probably easier for most people just to click on PayPal and send money if they can donate from there. Because it's a couple more steps to get into that system.
I saw someone delivering something. It was just someone was doing a report on YouTube, and then a drone flew over the fence, over some prison fence somewhere in the world. I don't know where it was.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I should start a GoFundMe campaign of for buying a helicopter with a long rope attached to it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
You just go from jail to jail. I don't know if anybody's listening and anybody knows. I mean, actually, Kingsley, maybe you know. I was thinking I'd really like to like play in a jail, um, probably more than once. I thought that that would bring a lot of joy to people. I think people would like that, and it's such a destitute hellhole of emotion. I feel like it would be really useful. Have you ever tried to do anything like that? Because I know that Jordan Page, he tried and he said that they gave him a lot of problems and it was really difficult. So I was thinking maybe I could find some sort of an organization that works with prisons that's already got some inroads. But I mean, I don't know. We're a long cry from the Johnny Cash days, apparently.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, if you're really interested, I mean, I can definitely look into that. That'd be great. Um,
100%. And I don't really care what jail it is. Like, it doesn't need to be a jail where I know somebody there. I would prefer not a scary jail with, like, you know, I mean, realistically, look, there are some bad people in max security, you know, murderers and rapists, and I don't think they need to see blonde random chick coming in. But at the same time, I would do wherever as long as it would be safe, you
Well,
know?
that's the shocking thing is that these people that have committed non-violent crimes that really don't hurt anyone but themselves, who have got psychological issues and are trying to run away from reality
Not
by
even that.
medicating
Sometimes they just
themselves.
mess up. Maybe they're not even psychologically issued. Like
Yeah,
sometimes somebody wanted to party and like they had a bad night.
yeah,
And that bad night turned into a bad life.
yep, yep, yep. And they're thrown in prison with you know, serial killers, rapists, murderers, and you know, how can that even be justified? It's just sickening.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah, I'll definitely look into that if you're interested. Yeah, it'd be great if you were able to play at my dad's the place where he is.
Well, you know what
Um,
else I was thinking was, and I got to think about how to best administer this. But if people listening, they want to be a part of this, they could just email me, because I actually have been thinking about this for a while. But some sort of a writing program where you can write a prisoner. I mean, these people, sometimes they go for years and nobody visits them. They get no letters. They're just abandoned. And I don't know, just to be able to like build up a pen pal relationship. I know that sounds silly, but I think that it can be really rewarding for both people. And I think that it's an important lesson that you have to learn as a person, that there are people that are being kept in cages, and
Yeah,
you make your decision about that, how you feel about that, but that is happening, and I think that people should experience that to a certain extent to understand it.
I think that's a really important point. I remember seeing a documentary about a person that was raped in prison, and that what society says about that is it's funny, don't drop the soap, like it's a really hilarious funny thing, rape, if it's institutionalized rape, if it's done
It's
in a
horrible.
prison. There's constant jokes about it, constant, and you're almost expected. If you go to prison, you're going to get raped. Like it's a normal thing. Like there's no even need to stop this sort of disgusting behavior. Um, and really, when it's outside of prison, it's the most shocking thing ever, which it is. And we sort of tend as a society to dehumanize people that are in prisons, to think, it's fine if someone in there gets raped, it's fine, and they deserve it because they're in prison, so they obviously deserve it. But it's really disgusting to see that the separation, the 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 separation people have, from these actual people that are in there, and usually for non-violent crimes. And even if it's a violent crime, it's about try not throw these disgusting things at people and allow that to happen.
But also, even if somebody is violent, I mean, obviously I'm not advocating violence, but sometimes people lose their tempers. I mean, it happens. We're human. So that means you just go to jail forever. I mean, there has to be some sort of a measure of restraint and some sort of a humanizing of the people that are going through this, because I know I've done some sketchy stuff. I know everybody that I know has done something that's been illegal at some point, and you never know who's going to be on the side of who's going to be the judge, who's going to get thrown behind bars, who's going to be unlucky that day. Um,
Yeah, there's definitely a problem with the dehumanization of prisoners. Yeah, and especially because you just consider, oh, he's a prisoner, so he must have did something wrong, and usually your mind goes to like something violent too. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, when
And then
someone's sorry,
oh, go ahead.
when someone's in prison for a traffic offense, or a minor drug offense or something like that, and then they're physically being raped, it's just despicable that people laugh about this and don't want to change the system.
well,
Yeah, it's like they're just forgotten. There was actually the same year that my father was incarcerated or found guilty. Uh, Another man had killed his son, and he got 18 years. He's already out of prison. Just to show you, like, just how crazy, like, how does that make any sense? Someone can commit murder and get out before my dad gets released.
Wow. Wow. I'm so, so sorry, Kingsley. I'm really, really, it's very upsetting to hear your story. And I hope that other people will go to michaeledwardsfreedomfund.com, and donate or download the PDF, send it in. Really, folks, these are people that this man has no other option but from your help out there. And so I really recommend people do that.
guys, I really appreciate everybody's time today. We're coming up on the hour, so I'm gonna wrap things up. But usually we have a magic word, because not only do we air on Liberty.me, but also to the LTB network, and people like to earn their LTB coin. So I thought that the phrase should be compassion in 2016. So I hope that people can keep that in mind. It's a really scary world out there. We've got a lot of upsetting things going on, and I just hope that people can have more compassion toward one another and will take action.
That's a
Um,
good one.
yeah, I think
Compassion in
it,
2016.
yep, 2016. So if people want to find out more one last time, go to the Michael Edwards Freedom Fund.com. You can catch up with Kingsley at leet.gg. Kingsley, what's your Twitter?
It's just KRH Edwards. And also, yeah, you can tweet at me or also email me at krhedwards at gmail. Also, what could help if anyone listening has any media contacts that may be interested in picking up the story too, that'd be great to start those conversations.
Absolutely.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I have some people that I'd be happy to introduce you to as well. So, Josh, any final words from Volturo and
Oh,
you?
look, I just would like to wish everyone a wonderful, as they say in German, a guten Rutsch, which means a good slide into the new year. Let's like Tatiana said, let's think about compassion. Let's think about as we do that, because the world needs people to resonate, feel with other people's bad luck and good luck too. And help each other out and profit as well if you can, and be healthy and happy. Tatiana's on mute.
Oh, shoot. So,
Oh,
yes, everybody, I wish you all a very, very happy 2016 with lots of love, and let's try and spread that around. Don't feed into the hate, feed into love, everybody. Happy New Year, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week where we have our guest from Vermont. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.